start our recording. So we are recording now. And as we get into the material today, I want to start with who we are. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carrie Mayo. I am the founder and creative director at Mayo Designs. I started the company 20 years ago, and we have a rock star team. You'll notice Taylor is up here on the top row. She is the one joining us today so that you can put a face behind her name.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks, Taylor. I have a pretty straightforward agenda. I'm going to use today's webinar as a demo, and I want to give you a document that you can follow to make your virtual event ultimately worry-free. And I am a fan of standard operating procedure documents and checklists so that I can hold myself and my team accountable. So we're going to start with a checklist for promoting your event. We're going to outline what the perfect presentation slide deck is. And a slide deck is exactly what you're looking at today. It's a series of slides. It ultimately makes up your deck. And we want to make it as straightforward as possible. So I give you a quick outline of how to do that. I will be using PowerPoint today, but there's multiple mediums that you can use. So don't think it's specific. I just have to give an example of one. From there, I'm going to go into a checklist on what to do post-event and share with you some of the things that we have found for follow-up for both attendees and no-shows. We're going to finalize with a recap of what we talked about and give you guys some free downloads. It'll be this template that we're going to be reviewing. And if any of you also need a PowerPoint template, I'll make that available to you as well. So I told you to grab your paper and pen because when we create a virtual event, ultimately, we have to know what capabilities you have in the systems or the tools that you're using today. So I want you to think about the four things. The four components that you're going to use to successfully kick off this event are going to include your website. Ultimately, that's where we put all the information. That's how we're going to drive people to the sign-up page. So when you think about your website, figure out if you have the ability to make the changes that you need to make yourself, or you work with another team or another contact to do it. And also identify what areas of the website you can ultimately change. We're going to get into that in a moment, but start to brainstorm if you already know what this looks like. If you have an alert section, for example, or if you have a news and resources section, we're going to dive into that. From there, we are going to encourage you to use a series of emails to announce this event. So if you're using platforms like MailChimp or Constant Contact, they're all going to have different features. Some are automated, some are a little bit more manual. And we're going to go through the cadence, the frequency, and what each of those email invites can include. And then take inventory on your social media accounts. A lot of our customers are saying things like, we use Facebook, but we don't really know if it's good for the business, or when is it appropriate to use LinkedIn versus Facebook. And I just want you to right now at this stage, figure out what you have access to so that you know that those platforms are going to be what you post on. Finally, you're going to choose your video conferencing platform. There are so many of them, Zoom being the most popular right now. It's the platform that I'm using today, and it's the one that I'll use in this example. So I'm going to switch my presentation and actually go into the demo portion of the webinar, because ultimately this is the document I'm going to provide to all attendees at the end of today's session. We use it as a template for all of our customers. Every single time we get ready to kick off a webinar, we come in, clone this template, and literally go through the checklist. So I'm going to walk you through how we create that for each of our customers. And the first time that you go through this process, it's going to be a little bit more time intensive than every other time because we need to actually make this yours. And if you want some help in that, we at Mayo are offering free consultations. So if you go back a couple of steps where you take an inventory on the tools that you're using and you give that to me ahead of time, I'll meet with you and your team and I'll customize this checklist for you so that you don't have to do it alone. But ultimately, when we're doing this internally and for our clients, we spend a couple of hours and make sure that everything is prepared ahead of time so that we can just kind of sit back. I can focus on the content and we can let the system of promoting happen on its own. So as you go through this document, just think of yourself and your team sitting down for the first time, identifying what dates certain things need to be published on. And if different people are responsible for different components, such as graphics or the copywriting or the actual posting, you're going to identify who's responsible for that. And then me as the business owner or the client can hold the rest of the team accountable based off of this timeline and checklist. So if we know what date and time our event is going to occur on, we at Mayo believe that if you have a 3-week lead time, that's ideal, because we can do a little bit of drip campaigning up until that point and, get additional attendees. But with that said, we have successfully hosted webinars for our clients that had dozens of attendees in as short as 3 days. So if that's something that's urgent for you and you need to make that event happen, this same framework here can support that. Many of you may have received an email invite yesterday from us. That's what we call our day before invite. And historically, we get 10 to 20% of our attendees showing up last minute because they're clicking the day before. So don't underestimate people's ability to move their schedule around if it's something they truly want to join. I would say, it's never too late to invite them. They'll ship if they're interested. So topic, right? We all have expertise in our craft, and I'm not going to go into the marketing behind how you choose your topic and how you script it too much today, because I want to focus more on the logistics behind this event so that you don't have to worry about what you need to do, when you need to do it. But of course, being the subject matter expert, you're going to know what is that topic that's engaging, because this is ultimately key. And make sure it's a topic that you're comfortable with. I'm not using a script today. I feel like I've gone through this process with so many of my clients. I would say I've done it in my sleep, because there are going to be some questions that come up and, you just don't want to be caught off guard. So be very comfortable, have somebody supporting you on this, on your event. I have Taylor, she's moderating. She's just making sure that little things don't arise. And I just thank her for being here to support me. Every event, because we're going to post on multiple mediums, we're going to basically reuse some of the content. So when I ask you to fill out what you want the description of your event to be, people sometimes get stuck in how long should it be, what should it include, and here's what I'll tell you. Just give a high-level overview of what is going to happen in your event. 1 paragraph description is enough. People love bullet points. It's just like a, yes, I want that. Maybe I don't really need to, expand my knowledge around that one, but they're going to remember a couple of key factors of why they wanted to join. So let's bullet it out and make your description something that we can use on multiple platforms. And I'll show you how we're going to do that, whether it's a long description or a short description in a minute. People love offerings or giveaways, right? So we find that a demo or an actual workshop style virtual event is best. People want to engage. With people today on the call, they've got their videos open. I love seeing your face. Hi, Karen. I know you're up on the hill. But give people a reason to show up, right? And don't make it hard for them. Don't make some bait and switch. This is the checklist. This is our template. You're going to have access to it. You don't have to do anything else to make it happen. So other ways that we have encouraged people to join some of our events are by offering them a little incentive. I have done co-presentations with some vendors in the past, and they like to give away an offer. It's not a cheesy thing to do. It's an expression of your gratitude for people joining. So don't ever think it can be over the top. I think it's a nice gesture. If you have the ability to do it, absolutely, it makes it kind of fun. Some of our customers choose to do the giveaway in another way, where if you submit your survey, then you're entered to win, or even if you submit your survey, everybody is going to be the recipient. So just think about where the value really lies in how to leverage a giveaway. One of the other things that you may have seen when you register for today's webinar, which is ultra important, is pre-registration or pre-qualifying questions, right? I sincerely want to know what challenge you have and how I can help you and or your existing team. And the way that I can do that is, prepare for today's webinar, because I reviewed everybody's submissions and I've curated some of the content around what you have shared with me. So you want to give them enough in the question where they start to think about your services, right? So do you currently have a marketing department? Are you the one that's responsible for making these things? And think about what that looks like in your business and how you service your customers. And then, I don't want to ask too many questions, don't want to scare anybody away, but just want to get them thinking. So I've given a couple of leading in phrases that you might want to use that we found that people historically will answer time and time again. We do choose to make our pre-qualifying questions required upon registration. We're not asking for anybody's personal information, so don't think that it's going to be too cumbersome. We're going to go over what a short form should include in just a moment. And then here's another area that I think businesses are leveraging more and more these days is a co-presenter. There can be some fear behind just talking into a screen and not engaging with somebody else in a real-time dialogue. So if you have any strategic partners, or if you have somebody else in your firm that you want to bounce that energy off of, truly consider it. And if you can leverage that strategic partner, another benefit that you're going to have is they're ultimately going to share it with their network. Your exposure is going to grow just in the simple fact that now you have two companies promoting the event. So from here, when we get beyond the outline of the actual webinar details, the content, I want you to, when you receive this, take the time, read through the tables below, and really identify which steps are relevant to you and your company and your process. And again, this is where I want to offer my team to come in here and modify this for each one of you, because it can feel a little bit overwhelming, and if it's done properly the first time, you're just going to be able to repeat it. And what we say is, hold each other accountable. If you have more than one person, if it's you, then at least have somebody that you can rely on to hold you accountable. And then make sure we're all following the same timeline, because I have a graphic designer, I have somebody who writes my content on my team, and if the content wasn't written by the due date of the design, then it just kind of bottlenecks us and slows things down. So get everybody on the same page. Communication, not only with our attendees, but with our team, is key. So we're going to talk about three components right now. It's going to be the pre-event checklist. There's some key nuggets in here that we found that has expanded our exposure, and that's what I'm most excited to talk to you guys about. But create your offering, right? So the example offerings I've offered today, and I'll use those as the example throughout this entire presentation, is the resource that you're going to be able to download and the consultation. If you want to take advantage of those, in my presentation, my PowerPoint, I'm going to show you what URL that how you can access that. Now, we've also chosen to put that downloadable resource in our thank you email. So there's a couple of ways that you can do this, but the point is, this webinar is ultimately going to live on your website for the foreseeable future. We're going to convert it from a live event to a pre-recorded event, and if somebody is watching the recording, they may not get the same thank you email that you're all getting as attendees. So we need to give them a way to download that resource if they're interested. And we all know that we're nurturing leads. We're trying to acquire new customers and prospects. And if we can follow them through the journey of the things that they're interested in, we can better serve them. So we choose to use forms. to give us the insight into each of those customers. So what I'm basically saying here is if that's also how you're doing it and you're using a form capturing, then we need to figure out where that's going to be placed on your website. There's automated tools to make that happen. Your CRM could achieve this. Zoom could also help facilitate this, or other video conferencing software. And notice the table that I've placed here, right? So who is actually responsible for this? And when does this step need to be completed by? Because this is chronological for us. And many checks and balances, the last thing I want is to think that we've launched it, but yet we forgot to actually put the registration on the video conferencing platform. And I wouldn't say it if it hasn't already happened. We've gotten to the day of an event in the early days when we just missed a step. We no longer do that. We've learned from our mistakes. So I hope you hear that and that doesn't happen to you. After you know where your offering is going to lie and you believe that it's truly of value to your participants, we're now going to actually create the event on your video conferencing platform. Zoom is the one that I'm using today. I will tell you that they have two methods to make this happen. You can make the entire process automated. What that would look like is you put a post on Facebook, join my event. They click on the learn more. It immediately goes over to Zoom. Recipient or user fills out the form, and then Zoom automates their add to calendar. It automates their thank you for registering, and it even automates their reminder to sign up for the event. It can go as far as, or some of these can go as far as sending an immediate thank you, which could include the downloadable resources. Automated is great, right? Hands off a little bit. I'll tell you that it is usually a little bit more of an expensive solution, and customers are, getting their feet wet, and it may not be known what features they need. So we support the majority of our customers in a manual process. They don't have any fancy CRM system that automates the entire customer journey and takes them through the process. Either way that you launch your event, I want you to think about these 4 things that they will absolutely include, they being the sign-up form. You want to make sure that the topic and the title is there. Check, done. You want to use a supporting graphic. People are very visual. We're always balancing the amount of content with something that they can relate to. The date and the time, again, this is one that you want to check and check again. And what is really built into a lot of these video conferencing softwares is the ability for you to automatically add the event to calendar. This is key. If you're doing this in a manual way, there are free online tools that can give you that little bit of snippet or a button that somebody can click on, but people want to make it, we want to make it easy for people to join. So that add to calendar is absolutely key. Of course, the registration form has to exist. I would say that people are more reluctant to fill out long forms than they are short forms. So if name and email is enough for you, some companies choose to do a phone number so that they actually can do the follow-up. Make it optional would be my recommendation. Of course, the pre-qualifying questions, we've already talked about the value behind those. So 3 super simple things to include. Once you have that, you can create the rest of your event and begin to promote it. Most companies have a website, and I asked you to take inventory on it, figure out if you have access to it, can you make changes to it. Most companies choose to put this on some sort of a resources or an events page. It doesn't have to look like that, but that's the most common. And here's the purpose, is ultimately to share this event and then archive it in the future, because we want this recording to be available to participants beyond today. This is going to be beneficial in search engine optimization too, because now you're putting out valuable content and it's going to be historically archived on your website. So don't forget that that's going to be available to you. Of course, on your website, this is where you're going to have the long description of the event. You also want to make sure that you're including the webinar topic and title. Let me just pause for a second and reiterate what I said. I use this as a checklist, but ultimately this is what I call an SOP, a standard operating procedure. If you remove Carrie Mayo from this process, I want Taylor to be able to step in and just go down this list and this checklist. So as the business owner, I can spend 15 minutes reviewing all of the content on the website. I can review all of the social media posts, and my team can come back to me if they have any questions on how to position it, but I don't have to be answering how to and where to anymore. So that's really what this document is. There's going to be some redundancy in here. There may be blinding flash of the obvious things. You're like, well, of course you put the title in the date. I'll tell you, we've forgotten it in the past. So bear with me as I go through some of these sub-bullet points. Again, depending on the platform that you're using, whether it's your website or social media, when I talk about supporting graphics and images, there may be some different dimensions. People get a little bit, I don't have the expertise to do that. And I'll tell you that there, again, are free online photo editing that make beautiful images and allow you just to kind of click and type. So don't get stuck on the graphic and the image. We just want to make it consistent. We want to make it look good on the platform that we have it on. Again, we're still in the website portion, so this is where I want to get everything in there. The offering, the giveaways, the presenters. I typically find that giving a little bit of a bio and a face to the presenter can be quite impactful. So we can expand upon what to include in that presenter request if you're co-presenting. And then, of course, your website, either you're going to have a form that's integrated with your CRM system on your web page, or it might link over to like a Zoom or another GoToWebinar link. So again, we're going to identify who's responsible for it, when it should be completed by, and then if it was in fact done or not done. Now, moving beyond the website, we're going to get into how do you promote this, right? Because we call it the garage band effect. You can put in something on your website all day long. You hope that people are going to come and visit, but that's not always the case. And the garage band effect is like, well, you kind of just like playing for yourself, but nobody wants to do that. They want people to come and listen and share. So your social media accounts, I'm ultimately going to focus on Facebook right now because I just can't take the time and go through all of them. Ideally, we want to have 2 or 3 posts. People aren't always going to make the decision the first time, right? That's kind of like the immediate or the, yeah, I'm interested. And then maybe they see it again, and then maybe something shifts and they see it for the 3rd time. They're like, you know what, I really do have the availability and that's a topic I want to see. So multiple posts, even if you feel like the subject or the graphic is redundant, that's okay. We just want to get it in front of them a couple of times. So if we do have 3 weeks to promote this event, what I'm going to suggest is as soon as you can, as soon as you go through this checklist, you're going to post immediately. You're going to then schedule another post, and you can schedule this right in Facebook. You can create it and choose when it's going to post for you. You don't have to go in there that day and time to do it, but do it 1 week before the event, and then again, do it the day before the event. I've already talked about, but if you missed it, we find that a good 20% of participants are joining the day before and the day of the event. So once we have kind of the cadence of what platform or the frequency of that we're going to post and which platforms, my point here is identify who's responsible for it and make their life easy by encouraging them to pre-schedule it. Here's another one that we kind of came into in the past year, maybe. A lot of community resources are going to have calendar of events. I live in the seacoast of New Hampshire and Maine, and we actually have a Seacoast Online that has a online calendar that we can post events and they approve it. This absolutely gives you exposure. We want to get this linking relationship. So do a little bit of research and find out, if it's your Chamber of Commerce or if it's any other strategic partner that has a calendar that you can post this on. This is really where I'm talking about leveraging some of these event platforms. But please don't forget that even if you have this event posted on your website and you've created it in your video conferencing platform. Facebook has stepped up the game a little bit in the way that they give preference to official Facebook events. You have a company page, you have posts that you can create, but you also have events that you can schedule. And this is going to show up differently on your users' feeds. So absolutely create that Facebook event. And then some of you may even have come in on Eventbrite. Again, it's another very popular event platform, and it's usually used for like common interest. So we have the ability to, go to Eventbrite and search on things that we like, whether it's music venues or marketing tips and tricks. That's where Eventbrite has a huge marketing budget, and you're just basically going in there, leveraging the platform, knowing that hundreds of thousands of visitors are coming onto that Eventbrite. Keep in mind that Eventbrite may do the registration a little bit differently. You won't have as much control over the users and what you can ask them and how you can follow up, but don't let that stop you. We get a decent amount of attendees through the Eventbrite platform. And then going back to the website for a minute, because you've already created the page. You've done the first step. Now, what else and how else can you promote it? We try to design websites so that you can create fresh content easily. If you have the ability to do that on your website, that might look like the home page could have a pop-up. The home page could have a slide or featured image, or even there might be a little alert bar that you can take advantage of. And this is really where you really want to highlight where you want people to go. And at this time in promoting a virtual event, that would be the place to go. So if you have the ability to do that, it's ideal. If they're going to hit your home page, you're going to not have them searching around for where you want them to go. You tell them where you want them to go. Emails. I know that we are all inundated with emails on a daily basis, but let's not lose sight of the fact that that's how the majority of us manage our tasks these days still. And as the recipient of an email, I have the ability to either, open it or delete it or just simply save it for later. So a lot of our customers will say things like, are you sure email is still the right way to communicate? Because it seems like we're not getting the same type of engagement. But analytics statistically are showing that people are still using their email and they are still absolutely joining events through that platform. So when you think about your experience with email, then adjust what I'm about to say in specifically, when I say adjust what I'm about to say, think about you receiving your email. And let's at least make it so it's not noise in their inbox, or let's bring forth the company's tone or personality in the email. This is where we can get kind of fun in the marketing. But beyond that, let's go to the logistics behind how we use email and what we found to be the formula or the model that we try to use. Again, if we have 3 weeks to promote the event, we're going to send out the first formal invite. Please join us, and it has all the information with a link, of course, 2 or 3 weeks out. The second email, we want to kind of short and sweet, and this email is absolutely value-driven. Be sure to, or don't miss, or, valuable content, something that is just going to give them a quick insight to what you're ultimately presenting on with a link to the event. And then, of course, last chance to sign up. That's just one title that you can use. And that one, we're going to suggest that you send out the day before. Again, majority or high percentage of attendees are going to come in the day before. Moving beyond the website and social media and email marketing, most companies tell us that the #1 way that they're getting their business is through referrals. And you can say it a lot of different ways. It's networking, it's relationships. So I'll use my company as an example. We have been a member of many organizations, and we continue to try to deepen the partnership that we have with them. And so when we launch a webinar, we have one message that goes out to our recipients, current customers, other customers that we want to work with. And then we have another message that goes out to our associations. And I create this in an automated way. I have a different email segment group, and we want to make it easy for them to share this. So you might actually know the details of this association and how they then post it. I have a solar association in California, for example, and I know that what they want is name, one line of description, and the link that the event is to go to, and that's it. If he receives it in that format, I've made it easy for him. He doesn't have to follow up with me. So point in this one is we're going to make it easy for them to share with their contacts. It's ultimately what we're trying to do. Now, promoting through relationships, it may not be appropriate for some of our current customers to receive the same verbiage or blast that our leads list does. So if you want to do a more personalized invite, again, this takes you out of the automated process, but it's valuable. You want to forward the invite to specific contacts. At Mayo, we're a small team of 8, and there are, clients that Taylor will manage or clients that another team member will manage, and she will look at the content and decide if it's right for one of her clients specifically, or in essence, that's the process I'm trying to convey to you, and she will just simply forward it to them and say, hey, client, I really want you to, see this webinar because, and she points out something specific, and she relates it to the relationship that they have. So keep in mind, we want to make this as automated as possible, but also don't lose that close relationship that you might have with some of your recipients that you don't want to send in an automated way. The last part I want to share with you in regards to getting ready for this event is create the reminder for those who signed up, right? We all get busy. Maybe I didn't add it to my calendar, and I just want to say, hey, Karen, don't forget or I'm going to see you on tomorrow's webinar, right? That's an automated email. I've scheduled it. It's in the system. It's ready to go. I keep adding recipients as they start to attend. And what we want to do is we want to send that event reminder the day before. Now, getting into the actual presentation. And I don't want to go too deep into, how to choose a hot topic and how to write the content and how to create your graphics, but we can go over that in our one-on-one with some tools that are going to be available to you. But the second biggest challenge I think customers have is they want to look professional, and they may not have a lot of money to create a customized PowerPoint. So, we can look for a template to make that happen. And they say, well, what does it need to include? Because a lot of people are going to have really, different ideas on how to approach it. And what I say is we're going to keep it super simple. Notice on today's webinar, I've got a lot of content because I'm trying to show you an actual demo of a detailed checklist, but the majority of people joining some of these events are not going to want a lot of words. So the perfect presentation, in my opinion, is going to include the bullet points that I've set here. And the one that I will say is open to vary how many of these slides are appropriate is going to be the actual content. But have a cover slide. As you invite people into the webinar, either you're going to be on video or you're not going to be on video. Either way, make it visually appealing for them. Give them an agenda, right? Tell me what I'm going to expect on this call. Tell them a little bit about your company. It may be the absolute first time they've ever met you. And then go into your presentation slides. I don't know how long your webinar is going to be. I try to make mine somewhere between 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour at the most. And I find that maybe 3 to 5 content slides are really appropriate. If I'm doing a demo, this is where I jumped out of the presentation and came over to the actual document. What you're going to see when we're done in this checklist is I'm going to go back and do a recap because I want you to remember the top things that I presented on, because we're going to talk about a lot of things. So give them the ability to recap what you want them to remember. And then the next step slides. This is where We don't want to make it challenging for them to contact you. They're going to do that in the thank you, but you're doing it in a reminder slide as well. It's your thank you slide. This is where you provide all the contact information on how to get in touch with you and any URL that you think is appropriate. We'll see that in action in just a moment. So again, same format we're looking at here. Who, in this case, would be responsible for creating this presentation would be me. I needed to make sure I was completed by today. And I don't need to have any of my other team know that it's completed because it doesn't kick anything else off in the process. So some of these completed columns might be open to how you flow through this process. Now, we talked about how to get ready for the event. We'll spend a couple hours, 2-3 hours, writing all the content, creating the graphics. We talked about where to or how to promote and leverage some of these other online tools. And now I want to just take a minute and share the frequency of post-event follow-up, because this webinar today is being recorded and it's going to be available in our resources section for future archiving purposes. Most video conferencing softwares automatically record this for you, and this is such a valuable long-term content that can be placed on your website, so don't miss this step. What it will require you to do is remove any homepage promotions that you may have put up there if your system doesn't do it automatically. And you will want to go in and actually modify. So today, at some point in the next hour or so, one of my team members is going to be responsible for modifying the content to make it in the past. So instead of join us, it will be something like, you know, if this is a presentation you'd like to view, you know, sign up here to watch the pre-recording of it. Some of our customers choose to make the pre-recording available publicly and not require them to fill out a form. But again, this is where you want to capture the people who are interested in the topic. And if you are going to do that, the registration form is going to shift a little bit, right? It's not going to have the same message. So the process of archiving needs to be outlined a little bit in some sort of a easy to follow standard operating procedure depending on how you're doing it. But this is a critical step that needs to happen in a very short time frame after your event has kicked off. So it goes on to say modify the content appropriately and add the webinar recording to or video and modify the page to include the form of the recorded webinar. So now we got through the logistics of ending a webinar. How do we manage our attendees and what's appropriate? So you're going to have two types of attendees. We had a couple dozen people sign up for today's webinar. I haven't looked to see how many are on it. I'm just going to assume 12 joined and 12 didn't join. So we go into an Excel document after today, and we're going to set an attended or a no-show status. What that'll do is change the follow-up that we have for these users. This follow-up is something that you can absolutely draft the content for well ahead of time so that you're not changing your schedule, or I'm not changing my schedule today to try to do my follow-up. But I will tell you, and I don't have this in here, what's key in this follow-up, people are going to expect to receive your offer within 24 hours. And of course, what you share with them in that follow-up, whether you choose to do it through phone follow-up or you choose to do it in email, the example I'm going to give is through email right now. We're going to have 2 emails drafted, one for those who attended. What that's going to include, of course, is thank you for attending. Be courteous and grateful that they did. Time is precious, I know that. And include a link or an attachment to the offer that you promised. I can't necessarily say which one is better. If it's a link, just make sure that you're not asking them to fill out the form again, right? They've already attended, they're there, give it to them right away. If it's a download, some customers are like, well, I don't know if I should be sending that much data. Does it bog down my email inbox size? And I don't have a preference one way or the other. I just want to make it easy, and you can decide which one you would prefer. Both work. Ultimately, it gets them the resource that they wanted. And for future viewing of the recording, a lot of people don't go back and actually watch the recording because they were distracted necessarily. They may go back and, get a couple of fast forward to certain points so that they could make sure they didn't miss anything. But what we find is they would forward it to somebody else on their team in case that person should find value in watching it. So make sure the link to the recording is available for them to make it easy for them to do that, and encourage them to do that. If there's somebody on your team, or if you found it valuable, please forward this along to any of your contacts. Now, no shows, right? Certainly we want to say something like, sorry, we miss you. And we'll say, during this webinar, we had some really great content. Here's a recap of what we talked about. Here's a recording, since you missed it, and you are still going to receive our downloadable offerings. So make it available to both types of users. And then let's do a little celebration, right? So the whole team put this on, you've gotten on stage, and you have kicked off this event. We want to leverage that by posting it not only in an archive view on the website, but on social media, because this again is going to be available for somebody who may have missed it the first time. So if you have a content calendar or content strategy, or you're always looking for different things to post on to keep yourself active in front of your prospects or customers, you can break up some of the content in your webinar and schedule that out for a couple additional posts. But even if you just choose to do one, say, for those who may have missed, we had a successful webinar today, and you can just do some simple, I call it a golden nugget of the thing that they're really going to get out of the webinar. And of course, don't forget this, always be sure to include a link to the pre-recorded webinar. I have absolutely talked quite a bit on the content, and I want to give anybody an opportunity to ask any questions in chat while I switch back to the PowerPoint, because from here, as promised, I want to give you a quick webinar recap. Again, this is trying.
One question that came in, if you want to take a moment and answer.
Yeah. Whoops.
So
yeah,
this
that sounds good.
Might end up being a whole webinar in itself, but can you touch on some strategies that make a virtual event more exciting? Not only how to engage a larger number of people, but also how to connect with people during the event and reduce the fatigue that they might have.
How do you make it more engaging? Yeah, so I know from personal experience in the state of our nation right now that I'm trying to connect with people. One of the things that I found in the first couple of webinars that we were hosting is I would not have people join by video, and I would make sure that everybody was muted, and I was receiving feedback that people wanted to see the faces of the other people as the event. Now, this can get a little bit weird, but if you have like one person or two people event, you kind of maybe feel like you're inadequate or you didn't promote this well enough. So I agree, we could go a little bit deeper into this, but engagement ultimately is something I would recommend. Try to really make it workshop style. Get rid of the fluff, get actually into the craft of your business. If you offer people consultation services or your product is providing them with a solution, get right into it and get out of the sales piece of it. Did I miss any highlighting that question, Taylor, that you could remind me of?
Yeah, I think you did cover it. Raquel, if you want to send any additional questions that go along with your initial one, go ahead and send that over. We did have one more question come through. They ask, how soon should we send the thank you for coming email and the event survey after the event? At what point is it too late to send out? For example, 1 to 2 weeks, is that too late?
2 weeks is probably too late. And, but if things come up and that happens, speak to it, right? Hey, I saw you 2 weeks ago, my life got busy, or we got a little bit crazy, or something came up, and we're hoping that you can still provide us feedback at this time. So talk to these people, right? And don't just make it like survey inbox and assume that they're just going to feel compelled. I would say that the appropriateness is within 24 hours. And that's almost like a critical 24-hour time frame, right? Because if you have the video conferencing software that's automated, these attendees might immediately get hit with a couple of emails from that software. We don't want to make that, we don't want that to happen, because we want them to actually really want to open the one that's directly from you. So in that 24-hour time period, don't inundate them with multiple emails. Keep it short and simple. If you have the offer, give it to them right away. If you have a survey that you'd like, we actually find that if you can do the survey during the event, and or if you can incentivize them to receive maybe a giveaway by filling out the survey, the higher submissions come in when we use those kind of tools. Anything else, Taylor?
Yes, we just had one more come through. She asks about the duration of the events. Any tip on that? We moved to virtual events now, which means people basically stay in their seats during the whole event with very little or eventually no opportunity to interact with others.
Yeah, so I'm gonna talk on two different types of events. This event today we would call a demo or a workshop style, 1 hour max. People are going to need to get up. They're going to feel fatigued, and we are, distracted by working from home. So try to make it no more than 1 hour in some sort of a direct one topic workshop style. That's not the case if we're doing a virtual event that you would have hosted live. And if that live event was held over the course of multiple days, or a half a day, or a full day, we've taken surveys with our customers to try to figure out what people are actually wanting. And what we have received is people want a live event. So don't create a long event, and I'm going to use a half a day event. So this 3 or 4 hour event. The feedback that we've gotten is make it live and make it interactive. Interactive means give me the ability to chat, have surveys available on my screen. Don't have me wait and receive something in my inbox. Use the technology that's available in these conferencing softwares. Get the feedback, the participation during the event. And the other nugget that we've received regarding these live events is if you're hosting something that is multiple hours long with multiple presenters, give people a way to sign up for the different sessions without having to sign up for the entire thing. So if you have something kicking off on the hour or on the half hour, make it available for them to pick and choose what they want to see, and create those recordings appropriate as well. Don't have one long 4 hour recording. Cut it up into segments, and some of these, conferencing softwares can absolutely make that easy for you. The other thing that we have supported for a conference is what we call breakout sessions. So in an event like today, we have a small audience of 12 people, but people want to get to know other people, and there's too many industries that have joined today to make this appropriate, but let me at least give you the scenario. So I belong to a digital agency consulting group. There's about 40 of us that typically join on a bi-weekly basis. And one of the things that our coach does is gets us to know everybody else. and he does it through breakout sessions. It gives people an opportunity to speak some of their challenges, and that's another key in if you're hosting an event that's really specific to a targeted audience or a group of like-minded individuals that are all trying to achieve the exact same thing in the same industry. Breakout sessions can be, or I'm sorry, just breakout rooms for a short period of time can be absolutely powerful. Is that it, Taylor?
I believe it is. Yes, you simultaneously answered Jason's question at the same time.
Okay, good. So again, what I want to recap it today is some of the biggest challenges people have is they're overwhelmed with all the steps that need to take place. This is the SOP, this is the checklist, this is the accountability document that I hope you find value in. And know the capabilities of your tools and don't let that stop you. Everybody wants to make it automated, make it easy. I'll tell you, it's going to take work to make these events work, and don't give up. It's consistency. The first webinar that we held, I, begged all of my customers and friends and everybody to just kind of like come here and support me and let me get my feet wet. The next time we did it, we had more people and it was consistent. The next time we did it, I think maybe the third or fourth one, I did it with a co-presenter, and then just, the ball started rolling. We got a little bit more comfortable. So get into it, be consistent, don't be afraid, know the capabilities of your tools, use this checklist, and then we're a marketing company. We do this all day long. I want to know what challenges you have. I want to modify that template for your company. So, take advantage of our free one-on-one strategy session. And the way that this is going to look is when you get your thank you email, or right now if you're copying and pasting that URL, the information gathering document is going to allow my team to come to the conversation prepared. So do a little bit of the prep work for us so that we can actually come in and ask you the right kind of questions. Take inventory on what you have. We know what the capabilities of a lot of these systems are. So help us help you. And then of course, that downloadable webinar document is going to come in Microsoft Word format. I don't know how your company is structured, but what I believe you may have seen in my demo today is this is Word, but it's Google Docs version of Word. So what this allows my entire team to do is use the same URL to make the changes to this one document. We call it the collaborative approach, right? So this document is going to come to you in Word. It's compatible with Google Docs. I encourage you to upload it to your system if you're using it, and get your entire team on board to collaborate and successfully kick this event off.
We
so
did
if you
have
don't have
question, if
okay.
you have a minute. So have you seen any unique social media engagement ideas to help promote the event, unique contest or engagement strategies?
Honestly, the one that I think people forget about the most is creating a Facebook event. And then as far as contests and strategies go, I can honestly say that we haven't engaged in any type of a tactic like that. We typically are supporting, I think, the flow of that I just outlined. So when we can get a little bit fun in the contest or the giveaway or the incentive to join, that can be the trigger to get people to click and fill out the form.
Perfect. Nothing else has come in.
Well, thank you all. Again, my email is right here. If you email me, I live my life through email. I will absolutely respond to you. And I just want to again say thank you for joining today.